at center. David over here. Say what's up, David. What's going on, man? I'm Kyle Phelps, your Bengals host, and I'm like I said, I'm joined by David. The Cincinnati Bengals this week, they're traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints in what could be a very close competitive game. I think there's advantages and disadvantages on both sides. Both teams need a win this week to get back to 500 and get their playoff hopes on track. But before we get started, whichever channel you're watching on, we both just ask that you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. Go check out his channel, the Who Dat channel, or the Who Dat Center. If you're watching on his channel, come check out me. It's just Kyle Phelps. It's real easy. We're both putting out content for our teams, and you're not going to want to miss any of it. So, David, I think before we get started, we should give a brief overview of. Actually, real quick, I just want to ask, how did you be like? Tell me about your story as a Saints fan. How did you become a Saints fan? Just some stories and stuff.
2003, so I was born inside the 2000s, but I still had that connections to the 1990s. So, of course, during that time, football has always been a huge interest of mine. Now, I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay, guys, I'm not from a different state who just started loving the Saints all of a sudden. I've been a Saints fan since day one. I was a diehard Drew Brees fan. And it's because of Drew Brees why I really got into football. Around 2006 was around the time when Drew Brees reached the team, and I just fell in love with the sport as a whole. Ever since then, I followed the New Orleans Saints when they won their first Super Bowl in 2009, 2010, to the downsides of the beast mode run, the 49ers, Vernon Davis catch that just destroyed our safeties. I remember that one. The Minneapolis Miracle, the no call. I've been here for it all, man.
Right on, man. That's pretty much the same with me. I grew up in Cincinnati, and my dad had season tickets for years, and just started taking me to games when I was like 5, but before then I was already indoctrinated. So I grew up. Things really like 2003. I think is really when it kind of started. Like the Bengals started becoming like a team that wasn't just constant trash, and it was fun. And then, man, like the emotions just went haywire in 2005 when the Steelers messed up Carson Palmer's. You need me to turn my sound up?
No, me. It's me. I'm good.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, but when the Steelers tried to murder Carson Palmer's leg in the playoffs, that just turned the emotion up to me to like 5,000, and I just kind of grew up just being real passionate about it. About 2009, I started writing about doing like my own like football, NFL, sports writing and stuff, doing my own power rankings and stuff.
Right.
2015, I started writing for Cincy Jungle and started doing things a little bit more professionally. But I mean, the Bengals have always been my team, and it's been a painful experience, but it's been a fun experience.
Right.
It's like I've always said like if I had just decided to be a Patriots fan when I was a kid, that wouldn't have been near if the Bengals ever win a Super Bowl, that'll be a lot more satisfying than just picking a team that's successful.
Right.
So I'm sure as a Saints fan, you can understand.
We fan bases stick to our team so much that it's painful. It's like an abusive relationship.
Yeah, it can be. Now, I mean, I will say, at least you guys actually won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We almost did it, and then I'll still have Jamar Chase posterizing Jalen Ramsey only for Joe Burrow to get sacked, stuck in my head forever. I have nightmares about that still.
Offensive line, man, that's the foundation of any team. Who that, Trav? Who that, JGP? Welcome to the stream, man. Go subscribe to my boy.
Yeah, I'd love to have you guys. I put out content like 3 or 4 times a week, and I'm always streaming as many games as I possibly can.
Right.
But anyway, as y'all know, the Bengals are coming off of an unexpected Super Bowl appearance. So this season has pretty much been about proving that it wasn't a fluke. The Saints, on the other hand, tell me a little bit about what the Saints are dealing with.
Well, the Saints' ideal plan was hoping to bank on either Rodgers, Russell Wilson for, to come in as the quarterback and take over this team. But, plans change. And when those plans change, then you have to go with the nearest backup. So the thing about the Deshaun Watson situation, I would obviously love to have him on the Saints. Who wouldn't? but the current legal suits he was in, plus he wanted another no trade clause, really turned me off because I feel like the no trade clause has too much power in the NFL as a whole. As we all know, the ability to request for a trade and choose where you want to go within 3 teams, that's a lot of power. And with great powers comes the responsibility to hold that power. And Deshaun Watson, he signed the contract with the Texans, and he wanted out by his second year. That proves your loyalty ain't really that true. We dealt with somebody like Drew Brees, who stayed loyal to the New Orleans Saints for almost 20 years of this franchise, with the downs and the lows. So pretty much we have to fall back on Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. Now, here's the thing about Jameis. And here's my problem with Dennis Allen. His management with the injuries has been poor this season. As we all know, the Saints is an injury-prone franchise. You can't look at it in any different way. The Saints always have more than 10 people on the injury report every season.
So, Who's do you know who's playing this week? Because it may actually influence who I think is going to win this game.
Andy Dalton going to get another start again. Jameis Winston, he might be at practice, but he's not ready to play again. And if we look at the different stat totals between Andy Dalton put up more points than Jameis did within those games he played. The offense has been very unperforming when Jameis was in. Now, it could be caused by injuries. He had an ankle and a back injury, and that can affect you deeply as a quarterback, as we all know. However, it's not an excuse for you to miss wide open targets, holding the ball too long, taking sacks, holding the Saints under literally 0 points for 3 quarters straight. These games so far the Saints has been playing, we shouldn't be at this record if we look at the Carolina game. If we look at the Tampa Bay game, you held Tom Brady to 3 points for 3 quarters, and you only put up 3 points yourself. We just can't overlook that as a whole.
That's true. So, pretty much, like I said, pretty much where the Bengals are right now. And shout out Gridiron Yuki for showing up on my YouTube channel, man. I'm going to get to that question about Joe Burrow here in a second. But appreciate you showing up. But anyway, the Bengals, like I said, they need to kind of prove that last year wasn't a fluke. They haven't really been doing a great job of it through these first few weeks. Last-second field goals to the Steelers, Cowboys, and Ravens are the reason that we're 2-3 and not 5-0.
Yeah.
But even then, they didn't even in those games where like they had to lose on last-second field goals. They didn't really look that great. At least the offense did.
You're right.
So, but they have been highly competitive every game, and you kind of feel like once the offense gets going, they could be unstoppable, and that's what I look forward to.
Right.
All I'll say is last year though that the Bengals and you know. You might know this if you watch my channel because I say this all the time, but week 6 was when things really kind of started taking off last year because we should have started out 2-3. We just, what's his name? Dalvin Cook fumbled, even though the Vikings should have won that game in week 1 last year, but Dalvin Cook fumbled, and I don't think it was a fumble, but they ruled it a fumble, and we ended up winning.
Yeah.
But we really should have started 2-3 last year, and week 6 was when we turned it on and started playing like a Super Bowl team. So, I mean, you never know. But, frustrating a lot of the time, but they're also really talented and capable of beating it. So, on the topic that I will get to your question, Gridiron Yuki, but I'm going to ask David first. What is your biggest matchup to watch this week?
Biggest matchup this week will go down to the secondary. The secondaries, this game has to be on point, especially with the weaponry they have. We have key injuries in Marshawn Lattimore. We have wide receiver injuries that's really affecting the Saints as a whole. No different from the Cincinnati Bengals, whose cornerback system so far has not been living up to the potential they had last season's. Them safety cores are really saving that secondary, if you agree, Kyle.
Yeah.
Von Bell and Jesse Bates has really been saving that secondary.
Well, Von Bell has. Honestly, Jesse Bates has been a little bit more of the problem. Like, Cheeto Awuzie has been pretty decent. Eli Apple's had some okay games, but Von Bell's really been the one holding it together. Jesse Bates has been playing like he did last year in the idea that, like, the reason we haven't paid him is because, quite frankly, he only really played – like the only time he actually turned it on and played like someone deserving a contract was in the playoffs.
And then we're looking at even worse issues if we're thinking about it too. In terms of injuries, both these teams right now, gotta say injuries ain't really favoring us. It ain't favoring us
Yep.
on your offensive line. It ain't favoring us on our secondary. Not one bit. The Saints are
Yep.
missing Marcus May. We look like we about to miss Marshawn Lattimore. Paulson Adebo is still starting this season slow. This secondary has not lived up to the performance it should have had last season when we still have Malcolm Jenkins and Marcus Williams. Now, to the key matchups is we don't know if Marshawn going to be playing or not. That's something that Jamar Chase could take advantage of. But at the same time, it's not like Jamar Chase has been a key factor inside the Cincinnati game. It turns out y'all really don't know how to move him around inside the lines.
Well, part of it is NFL teams have, because of what happened last year, NFL teams have basically been triple teaming Jamar Chase every single game. Yeah. And the frustrating thing is I don't understand how, because what was it, week 1? Like Tyler Boyd has had a couple good games, but he should have had more with all the opportunities.
Yeah.
T. Higgins has been doing okay, but he was also hurt. Mm-hmm. Hayden Hurst has been making good use of the opportunities, but they're taking away Jamar. They're doing everything they possibly can to take away Jamar Chase by basically they're at worst case scenario, what they're doing is they're having someone play man coverage directly on him, and then they have a safety basically shadowing Jamar Chase on every play.
Right.
So it's just like if you do get it to Jamar Chase, there's going to be 2 dudes right on him.
Yeah.
So it's like shifting him around. I'd like to see him do a couple more things out of the slot, just some drag routes up the front. But at the same time, it's like they're zero laser focusing in on stopping Jamar Chase so much. And what they really need to do is they just need to adapt and be more creative with who they're trying to get the ball to.
Because if I'm looking
instead
at his
of forcing the ball to Jamar Chase.
Because looking at Jamar Chase's route tree, he don't run too many things if we're paying attention to it. His most common route is, the post, the streak, the in route. Mm-hmm. I don't really see him running any out routes, meshes, crossers. He don't run none of those like a normal person in a slot would. I would like to see more usage in the slot from Jamar Chase just to expand his craft as a wide receiver. You keep him on the outside, you keep him lined up against that safety behind that corner.
For sure. I feel that, and I think, like you're saying, with Marshawn Lattimore being out, I think it could potentially be something for the Bengals to take advantage of if they can.
Right.
Be really nice if they actually do it. But so for me, I think the biggest matchup to watch this week is and maybe this is cliche, maybe this is obvious, just because the first thing everybody always thinks about when it comes to problems with the Bengals is the offensive line.
Right.
So for me, that's the key matchup: the Bengals offensive line against the Saints pass rush. Because quite frankly, the Saints pass rush has not really been all that impressive this year.
No,
they rank like bottom 10 in pretty much every category when it comes to defensive line.
Yep.
And the Bengals offensive line started out horrible. I mean, we all remember what happened last year, and then they got off to a slow start this year, and everybody was like, "Oh, the Bengals didn't do anything to fix it." They have been doing better though. Ever since the last couple of weeks, they have been doing better.
Now,
so now, you go ahead.
Is this the cause of not fixing the line before you got Joe Burrow? Because we know when Joe Burrow got there, he was going to bring the all-star talent y'all needed, but y'all didn't have the line assembled. So
the issue with that is they were really bad at assembling the line. I am a fan of Zach Taylor in general. I will admit, obviously, he has his flaws, but I've always liked Zach Taylor. I actually was one of the people saying, hey, before they hired, after they fired Marvin Lewis, I was like, hey, this Zach Taylor guy, I really like him. Let's go get him. But I will admit, bringing in Jim Turner to be the offensive line coach was such a horrible decision, especially after, back in 2016, we told Andrew Whitworth to take a hike. We basically, pissed Kevin Zeitler off by not offering him enough money. We had to rebuild the whole offensive line. We were bringing in dudes like Cordy Glenn and Bobby Hart and
not many people
just a whole lot of trash.
Pick up studs in the 6th round.
Yeah, exactly. And we couldn't draft linemen to save our lives. I mean, Cedric Abwehi and Jake Fisher and recently Jackson Carman just all have not really panned out. It is starting to turn around though, and I think part of it is because we just decided we're going to throw money at the offensive line, and Lyle Collins hasn't been as big of a stud as we'd hoped he'd been, but even he has been improving a little bit. His run blocking is really the biggest issue. And obviously that fourth down play last week where they tried to pitch it up the middle and Lyle Collins just totally missed his assignment. Like there's some mental errors going on. He's definitely not the guy that we paid for.
Yeah.
But he is doing better. And Ted Karras and Alex Kappa have been fantastic additions.
Now, here's another question. Is not pursuing Teron Armstead making y'all mad? Because Teron Armstead was in free agency and the Cincinnati Bengals did not pursue.
Well, it depends on who you ask. I mean, there were some like Teron Armstead, like there was a Teron Armstead fan club of Bengals fans this offseason. Like, some of my former colleagues, like I believe Matt Minnick, but definitely Mike Santagana. There were definitely a few Bengals like big name people, like big name fans who do a lot of analysis stuff like that, who were like on the Teron Armstead train. Me personally, I wasn't as worried about tackle because like, I mean, obviously right tackle needed to be addressed. We did address right tackle, and I felt like Lyle Collins was a perfectly fine, thing. Obviously it hasn't worked out great so far, but I wanted Lyle Collins. I mean that was the guy I wanted them to go pursue.
Right.
Now, Teron Armstead, that would have been cool, but he would have played left tackle, and then you would have had to move Jonah Williams. And I mean, like you could totally move Jonah Williams, but why would you do that when you have a perfectly fine left tackle? So that was my whole perspective with Teron Armstead. And obviously Jonah hasn't been, Teron Armstead would have been a bit better left tackle this year. Instead of Jonah Williams, the way he's been playing. But at the same time, I felt right tackle was the bigger problem that needed to be addressed. And Teron Armstead, he's old and stuff like that. And, the contract he was obviously he's been worth it.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here trying to say like, it would have been a waste of money, but I was, at the time you don't know what's going to happen. So I was thinking, he's kind of old, I mean, like, maybe we try to go for somebody younger. And honestly, after Lyle Collins becomes available, it's like that's the obvious answer because the big hole is right tackle. He's like arguably the best right tackle in the NFL, at least for his age. Now, obviously, it's been a bad adjustment, but I'm talking about at the time. That's the way we viewed it at the time. So to answer Gridiron Yuki's question earlier for how I feel about Joe Burrow going up against the Saints front four, I feel perfectly fine because I feel like the Bengals offensive line has been doing better and the Saints offensive line or defensive line, while they have been doing better, by the way, I looked it up. The Saints have been getting their pass rush has been improving week to week, but it still hasn't been like a world beating type defensive line. So I think a big matchup for the Bengals here is if you can keep Joe Burrow clean, then you can potentially do a lot of damage. And if you can get that offense going, like I said, with the way, like I'm not worried about our defense. Our defense will stop you guys from scoring. Even if the Bengal killer, Andy Dalton, who we still haven't beat since he left Cincinnati, by the way, like we're 0-2 against him. But even if Andy Dalton is playing, I don't think he's going to score a lot of points against our defense.
Right.
What I think is going to make the biggest difference is can our offense get going? If you guys can stop our offense, then you'll probably win this game because our defense, as good as they are, cannot stop people on final drives for whatever reason. They're not clutch. They're very good. They're just not clutch.
Not clutch.
Yeah.
Now we both know both these teams are underperforming. We can't just sit here and keep a spade. Who you got to blame for this, bro? Are we blaming coaching for our struggles or is it just a specific group that's costing us games?
So the biggest issue for me has been the fact that they cannot run the ball to save their lives. Because they can't run the ball, everybody knows exactly what's coming pretty much every single play. Joe Burrow is still adjusting a little bit with seeing the field and everything like that, and NFL teams are taking advantage of the fact that they know exactly what's going on.
Mixing up the defensive coverages, making it look like they're playing zone, but they're playing man. They're putting an extra safety inside on little slip routes. They're making sure the quarterback stay on his toes.
And they can't play action to save their lives, right? So that's pretty much That's pretty much how I. No, hi Matthew. That's pretty much how I see it. Like there's just they need to start running the ball. And as much of a big deal as we made out about, oh, we got Frank Pollock coming to be our offensive line coach. He's like the best offensive line coach in the country. This is going to be awesome. And while I do think he's very good, at the same time, he also became the running game coordinator, and our running game has just been not good this year. You know, now they were good against the Ravens. I will say that. It was some other stuff that happened against the Ravens, and I mean you could blame coaching. I'm like obviously Zach Taylor has certain things that he's been doing, like some decisions that he's been making, which are stupid. Mm-hmm. Like I mean some of these decisions to go for it on fourth down, it's like I'm not against being aggressive, but there's like a time and place for it, right? I mean there's certain situations where it's like, dude, 3 points is fine here, you know. Like I would rather have the 3 points than potentially not have anything here. I understand sometimes you need to be aggressive, but sometimes you just need to understand that, you know, your defense maybe looks good, but Justin Tucker's on the other side of that field.
Right.
And the defense this season has just not been good at stopping teams on final drives. And the offense is like, when the hell are they going to get back here in the future? Just take the points while you're here, because you don't know if they're going to get back to this side of the field.
Right.
So I mean, that as far as who to blame, and there's also quite honestly, like I know this sounds crazy because like I mean, like most people in the NFL, you know, agree that he's an elite quarterback, but I think there's some blame on Joe Burrow. Because there have been some, like, especially I was mentioning earlier, he keeps trying to force the ball to Jamar Chase. Yeah. That was like the one interception he had. Like he threw like 5 or like 4 interceptions week 1 against.
You talking about on what, second down when he threw it to the linebacker Patrick Quinn? Was it Quinn?
Yeah, when he threw it to Patrick Quinn, the reason that was an interception is because he was trying to force the ball to Jamar Chase, but dude was triple covered, and Patrick Quinn was literally just like sitting there like. He was just like, if you throw it here, I got it. And Joe Burrow was just like,
besides Mahomes, the newer generation of quarterbacks they stare down their targets now. They just stare them down, and you're just not used to it because even like not the most successful quarterbacks even know how to go through their progressions. If you paid attention to last night with Justin Fields against the Washington Commanders, he didn't go through a single progression. St. Brown was wide open in the flat. And he stared at the tight end in route.
Right.
And it'd be one thing if it was Justin Fields, but it's all these new quarterbacks. Justin Herbert do it sometime. Joe Burrow do it. For all the greatness we give those two, they both have issues. We just can't put the upsides and say, no, they have no downsides. Yeah, you hit in the draft, but they got problems.
And that's the thing, like that's something Joe Burrow does not normally do. He's not typically a stare down his receiver type of player, but I mean he's been doing that a lot this year. Mm-hmm. And again, that's why Patrick Quinn intercepted that ball, because Joe Burrow was so obvious about what he was doing on that play.
Right.
So I don't really understand what his thought process was there. Yeah. But What do you think that circling back to the Saints game?
Yeah.
Or for you, I guess the Bengals game. So circling back to this upcoming game on Sunday, what do you think? Like if for you, if the Saints do this, then they win. What is that thing?
If we do this, first off, but at least we gotta start moving the ball better. We got to be more consistent with our play calling. I'm looking at you, Pete Carmichael. I'm looking at you. I'm tired of running the ball on second down. Second down and long, run the football. You only get a yard. Third down and long, now you got to pass it over the defense. Boom, you're stuck. Punt the football away. I'm tired of it. We don't have a consistent offense, something that's been dragging this defense to the ground. Now, last game, I give it to you. Andy Dalton has been playing pretty decent, but we can't ignore the fact that every single time the defense give you the ball back with the chance of you taking this game away, you just can't do it. You keep giving the ball back. The Saints are winning the time of possession in every single game they play so far. But if you're not putting up points, then guess what? You're always keeping the other team in the game. That's something that happened against the Vikings. That's what caused the Saints to lose against the Vikings.
Your scheme is not consistent. And that's something Saints fans are missing from Sean Payton. Coaching has been more of a downside for the Saints. If you look at it, the Saints are second in the league in penalty yards. That falls on head coach Dennis Allen for why these guys are not disciplined. Costly penalties.
No, I feel that. That's actually to circle back to a question you asked earlier. That's actually part of why I do like Zach Taylor, because I feel like, you know, the team always has the right mentality, the right head on their shoulders when they're going. Like, part of the reason that we went to the Super Bowl last year is because we were one of the least penalized teams in the NFL last year, because Zach Taylor had these dudes playing disciplined. So if you don't do that, it can be damn near impossible. Like, if you gotta face, like, in some games you got to play against the refs anyway, and if you're making it. If you have to play against the refs also because you're giving the refs reasons to look at you, then it's going to be a problem.
It's going to be a huge problem. And the readiness of a football team. You could tell a readiness from a football team from a good head coach to, you know, a regular head coach. A really good head coach, your team is on fire every single day. You only have one bad game throughout the year.
Yeah.
Something Andy Reid mastered. That's why him and Patrick Mahomes is so good. You look at the Chiefs, they're ready to play every single day of the week. They might have like one bad game out of an entire year.
And then they come right back.
We're looking at the New Orleans Saints, and we be like, okay, we haven't had a clean game yet. We either got a fumble, we average around 2 turnovers a game. We average 2 turnovers a game. We average around a 50 yards worth of penalties. That coaching has been very poor. And I can't blame our position coaches because it falls on our head coach. Why are these guys not ready to play? Why are these guys making these type of mistakes? Why are you putting your players in succeed? I think Tyler Lockett caught 2 touchdowns on Paulson Adebo last week. Why the heck you didn't have better safety help?
Mm-hmm.
Justin Evans is all out of place. And then you just have Tyler Lockett cooking my boy Paulson Adebo. Now, Paulson Adebo is a rookie, so you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. He ain't going to always stay with his guy all the time. That's why you give him safety help. You might be able to get away with it with Marshawn Lattimore because he's an all-pro corner. But when you're dealing with someone like Eli Apple, you probably be mad if they just leave Eli Apple on the island with Justin Jefferson.
They wouldn't do that in the first place, but I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, question here from Gridiron Yuki. Biggest strength against the Saints and biggest weakness against the Saints. So I kind of talked about this a little earlier. Like, in particular, I feel it's going to be really interesting just because that Saints pass rush hasn't been great. And then he was talking about how like with Marshawn Lattimore being out, that's a potential big advantage for the Bengals with having Jamar Chase. And it sounds like T. Higgins might play, so we'll see. But even if not, you still got Hayden Hurst, you got Tyler Boyd, you got Joe Mixon, you got Michael Thomas apparently, who can make incredible, amazing catches. So you've got all that. Not Michael Thomas, Mike Thomas, our Mike Thomas.
Oh,
yeah, like the other one, number 80, the guy who we got from the Rams. But my biggest weakness, I have a real one and I have a serious one and I have a funny one.
What's up?
I'm gonna start with the funny one. The funny one is, I think I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but the funny one is that it sounds like y'all are gonna be starting Andy Dalton, and for whatever reason we cannot seem to beat Andy Dalton. Like Andy Dalton beat us plenty when he was playing for us, and now he only beats us like he just constantly wins. We've played him. He's been gone for 2 seasons, and we've played him both seasons against the Cowboys in 2020 and against the Bears in 2021, and both times we lost. So it's like I kind of want Andy so that we can beat him, so that we can finally not at least be like, oh yeah, you don't always beat us. But at the same time, I also kind of don't want Andy because I'm like, man, the pattern's there,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that's kind of like my funny weakness, but my more serious weakness is that the Saints, for as much as I was talking about their not so great pass rush earlier. Y'all's run defense is really good.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning earlier how we kind of need to get the run game going to be able to have a good passing offense, to be able to do a lot of different things that we want to do. So if y'all just shut down our run, that could be hard. That could be really difficult for us. Exactly. And if we get one-dimensional, it's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we are about we're hitting up on about a half hour into this. So I do have one final question for you before we hop off of here, though.
What's up?
So give me your final score prediction, and you can be unbiased, like I try to tend to do, or you can be as biased as you want. I don't care. Give me your final score prediction.
I got 24-27 Saints.
Okay. 24-20. So 27-24 Saints.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. So if it happens that way, I bet you anything it'll be like 24-24 at the very end of the game, and then the Saints kick a field goal to like at the end of the game, because that's just the only way that we've lost games this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. I gave it some thought. I think the Bengals pull this off 27-17. And that's my honest opinion. For any of y'all who watch my channel, you know that I don't just try to blow smoke up the Bengals' ass. I try to be like realistic and honest when I break everything down. But like I said, I do think that there's a good matchup for the Bengals here this week, especially with the pass rush, and then with Marshawn Lattimore being out. Now again, I'm a little more skeptical now that I know Andy Dalton's going to be playing, but that's also more of like a kind of a funny thing that's not really seriously serious. But it's like, if the Bengals offense can get going, which I don't see why they shouldn't be able to be if the offensive line can hold up, then I think like when they've got the offense going this year, they've scored 27 points. So that's why I'm saying 27 for the Bengals. And then the Bengals defense has on average been giving up 17 points per game.
Right.
So I think they'll do that this week. I think it'll be 27-17 just because of that.
I respect it.
All right, so it looks like a Gridiron Yuki actually here, who I believe you sent over to my channel.
Yeah.
He is predicting almost the same thing I'm predicting, but by 1 point difference. He's predicting 28-17.
The game all comes down to offense. Whoever offense basically score over 14 points probably have to hit seat to win this game.
Yeah, pretty much. Isn't that sad when you think about it?
Yeah. There haven't been much offensive firepower games so far this season, though, if we're being honest.
Well, with the whole NFL, yeah, it's been, especially on Thursday night. Like, dear God,
Dude,
I actually good. Honestly, Amazon deserves it. But I know I'm in the minority here, but I actually kind of enjoyed that Bears-Commanders game because while it wasn't high scoring, I don't need it to be high scoring. It was interesting. It was competitive.
Yeah.
Especially at the end, it was this cool ending and stuff like that. It's not like that Broncos-Colts game, which was just a disaster. It was just a waste of time.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just I don't know, But yeah, anyway, so you're picking the Saints, I'm picking the Bengals, which probably seems very biased to neutral parties watching, but I can promise you on my perspective, I'm going to always root for the Bengals to win. Yeah. But if I don't think the Bengals are going to win, I'm going to say that. I mean, I live streamed the AFC Championship last year, and I put on my AFC Championship. I'm like, I think the Chiefs are going to win this one, guys. I'm sorry. And then we won, and I was just like, I've never been so happy to be wrong. I went absolutely insane. I mean, that was right. I mean, that was such a good game, dude. But anyway, any final thoughts that you have for my audience here, David?
Nah, I think I think I'm ready for Sunday, man.
I am so ready for Sunday. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good game. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be competitive on both sides. And one of us is going to be coming out of this game thinking, "Hey, maybe there's something to my team." The other one's going to be coming out of this game thinking, "Oh God, we are screwed." Right. So. So it's gonna be an interesting bunch of storylines that are coming off of this game. But anyway, David, I really appreciate you joining me on my show, man.
No problem.
Like I said, I like doing previews of this style. I tried to do them last year. I just couldn't find enough NFL fans to actually do this with me. But appreciate you coming on. And you can always find more of me at Kyle Phelps 92 on Twitter, Facebook.com/the Phelps. And then I got a Bengals Browns podcast, the Battle of Ohio podcast is on YouTube. Subscribe to me here on YouTube, and then go find him. Where all can they find you, David?
Man, you can just find me at the Who Dat Center, man. Social media still never set one up yet.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But you can find him at the Who Dat Center on. Actually, I do have one question before we go, and this might be the most important question of all.
What's up?
But like I said, Who Dat Center on YouTube. But what is your opinion on who owns the Who Dat or Who Day thing? Because obviously our thing is Who Day, your thing is Who Dat. You know, what's your opinion on that? Do the Saints own that? Do the Bengals own that? Like
the thing about the Who Day and the Who Dat chant is I don't know where it originated from. Did it originate during our time? Because it probably grew to popularity on the Saints playoff run. When Drew Brees got over to the Saints, that's when the Who Dat chant really started reaching that type of apex for the New Orleans Saints. Like, you come in our stadium, they scream that, you can't hear a thing. They got quarterbacks got earbuds in their whole ears and everything. But the Who Day chant was so small because y'all was still getting stuff together as a franchise.
Well, for a while, yes, but actually, from what I can tell from my research, the Who Dat chant and the Who Day chant actually developed completely independently of each other. I know they sound the same, especially because like y'all are like Who Dat they think going to beat them Saints, and we're like Who Day think going to beat them Bengals. So it seems like it's got to come from the same place, right? But the reality is they actually came from they have nothing to do with each other. Oddly enough, like they developed completely independently,
right?
And the Bengals chant did, I believe, come 2 years earlier. Hold on. The Bengals chant came to start that the first Super Bowl run that we made in 1981. That's when they started doing Murphy out. Sorry, my son's trying to get on the channel. Not right now, dude. I'm on a podcast. So the 1981 season when we made that first Super Bowl run, that's when the Who Day chant. Like that, I don't know if that's when the original thing all started developing, but that's definitely when it started coming to like national prominence was 1981. From what I can tell, Saints fans started doing it in 1983, which would have been right around like the Archie Manning era and everything like that.
I don't know.
So, but from what I can tell, for the Bengals, it kind of like started. Like Bengals fans started doing it because it was kind of like a local chant that was used in like, because high school football is so big around here, and for the Saints fans, it sounds like it was more of like a local thing that people would just chant like outside of football games. Like it wasn't even originally like coming from a football thing. Right. And actually, those origins, from what I can tell, it was something that like has been part of like Louisiana culture long before it was ever part of like, Ohio culture.
Right.
So from like the originators, like the prequels and everything to the Who Dat and Who Day chant, sounds like the Saints and like Louisiana people had that first.
Yeah.
But the Bengals are the ones, from what I can tell, the Bengals are the ones who actually had the chant itself first.
Right.
But also they developed completely independently and roughly about the same time. So it kind of doesn't matter.
I guess just the famousness if you ask me, the Saints probably just blew theirs. Like it was like a bigger impact than the Who Day chat, if you ask me.
Yeah. By the way, Matthew Thompson, one of my subscribers, wants me to tell you that he was my first subscriber. So shout out to you, Matthew. And Matthew, you should go subscribe to the Who Dat Center. He puts out good content,
Matthew,
man. Even if you're not
Matthew,
a Saints fan, it'd be cool stuff.
I read all my comments, or at least I try to. I read all my comments. My comments actually going live right now. You could just say he didn't know you was a dad, man. Hey, man, it's a beautiful thing in this world.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got two sons. The 7-year-old is the one who likes to pop in at random times, and yeah, like hey, wait a minute. Every once in a while, I'll bring him on. It's kind of adorable to have the kid come on and be like, go Bengals.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I said, man, like that's pretty much all I got for this episode.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on, and maybe in 4 years, maybe you're still doing this, and maybe you come on again.
Sure.
Because I mean, maybe we play you. I know we're guaranteed to play the NFC South again in 4 years, but maybe our schedules line up before that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But like I said, at Kyle Phelps 92 on YouTube or on Twitter, Kyle Phelps on YouTube, and go check him out, the Who Dat Center on YouTube. And appreciate y'all tuning in. It was a good one, and I'll leave y'all as always with a Who Day.
And I appreciate you for having me on, bro.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate you